Marshall before we lead up to this amplifier. As you know, Marshall, well you may not know, sorry, Marshall was made or born in the United Kingdom, in the UK, in London, in the early 60s by Jim Marshall. You all heard of Jim Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. We're off to a good start. Okay. Did you know Jim Marshall didn't play guitar? Yeah. Does anybody know what he did play?
Drum.
There you go. Excellent. He was a drummer. And who says drummers should not get involved in guitar players' business? So, Jim Marshall opened a shop with his son Terry in the early 60s, and they never manufactured anything at that point. They just sold musical instruments. And it was a very good time to start doing this because he had some excellent customers coming into his shop, like, you know, Eric Clapton, Richie Blackmore. Heard of those guys? Yeah? Good, okay. I got a little bit scared then. And they were customers in his shop, basically. And they used to order in a lot of, you know, other brands, other manufacturers. And it was actually Jim Marshall's technician that worked in the shop, Ken Brown, who told him that he could actually make his own version of these amps quite easily. So that's how Marshall was born. But the difference was, he used to listen to those guys coming into the shop who wanted more, who wanted louder than the other competitors. So, as we know, we're all used to seeing a wall of amplifiers behind us. But it's hard to think of a time where that did not exist. You know, everybody had smaller amplifiers, combos, that kind of thing. And the wall of amps, or the stack as we now call it, was created for one of Jim's customers at the time in the shop, a man called Pete Townsend. Who knows Pete Townsend? Good. Does anybody know the band he was in? There you go, just making sure. So he actually made an 8x12 cabinet, huge thing, the size of a wardrobe. And Jim Marshall said, that's going to be too big. He said, I don't care because I'm not carrying it. But then after a short amount of time, he brought it back to the shop and he said, could you please chop it in half, it's too big. And cut a long story short, that's how the 4x12 cabinet was born, okay, and the stack. Because, again, Pete Townsend told Jim, I want it louder because I don't want to hear the audience when I'm playing. So, that wasn't meant in a negative way, he just wanted to be the loudest thing on the planet, I think. And obviously Marshall's known for going one more with everything. Does anybody know the movie that came from? This one goes to 11? There you go. We can all be friends. So, from there, really there was a long, you know, rich heritage for Marshall amps. You know, and obviously later on in the 60s, you know, Clapton, the Beano album, that hit, and in the late 60s, Jimi Hendrix went huge. He was also using Marshall, he was a good friend of Jim Marshall's. And you know, the rest is history. You know, every classic rock album you listen to, you know, is probably Marshall. Probably the most iconic brand on a stage. Even my dad, who doesn't play guitar, knows Marshall. I think everybody's seen the logo somewhere before. So, moving a little bit forward, you know, there's been lots of really iconic amps, you know, all the Plexis, the 1959s, the Blues Breakers, all those kind of amps. And then jumping forward a little bit, I guess the next big icon was the JCM 800, which is probably the sound of 80s rock, which we all secretly love, I think. Any 80s rock fans out there? Okay. I expected more of a response, but that's fine. Any 80s rock fans out there? I'm going home. Okay, so the 800, and then this one was born, and it's a funny colour. You know, all the other amps we did were black, because this was called the Silver Jubilee, and that was to mark 25 years of Marshall amps. Okay, it was known as the 2550 at the time because it was 25 years of Marshall amplifiers, but 50 years of Jim Marshall being involved in the music industry. Because we all mentioned earlier that Jim was a drummer, He wasn't just a drummer though, he was a very successful big band drummer. He had a career in his own right before he even started with Marshall amps. So it's an important thing to remember, you know, with all these other brands creeping in and, you know, putting the Union flag on boxes and all that kind of stuff, that Marshall is a heritage brand. We still make, you know, most of our amplifiers are still made in the UK. And we have got some other amps which are made in Vietnam, but, you know, people are getting confused these days. They say you don't make anything in the UK anymore. I think, as you can see from the wall of amps behind me, and the ones at each end, they're all UK made, bar a couple on the stage. So, the Silver Jubilee itself, this version is what we're calling the Studio Jubilee, or the Mini Jubilee. It's basically a smaller version of the original amp, which came out in 1987. And feature set is pretty straightforward. It's a 2-channel amplifier, but it's kind of got a third channel, because the first channel you can use in 2 ways. You can have it as a clean or a crunch. And the second channel is obviously your overdrive, which you heard quite a lot of in that last track. So I'm just going to show you the amp first, sort of in isolation. I'm going to show you each of the 3 channels. So the first sound you heard today was the lead channel, so which sounds like this, you know. That sounds like a Marshall to me. The first channel, I'm just going to switch over now. Clean sound now. This is foot switchable, by the way. I just didn't want too many foot switches in front of me, because I'll end up falling over in front of everyone. So. First channel. I'm going to use the push-pull on the front channel, which will engage basically an extra gain stage, and it will give you a crunch sound instead. So you can either have a clean and a lead sound, or a crunch and a lead sound. Again, this is foot switchable. Second overdrive channel, really, to give you all your crunch and sort of rhythm needs. That's how I like to use it anyway. So that's the Mini Jubilee. We're using it for a 2x12 cabinet. There are various options though. You can get a single 12, you can get the side-by-side or the upright 212, depends on the amount of floor space you want to take up. And there's also a combo version over there, which has got a 12-inch greenback. Has anybody got any questions so far? No. Nothing. No. Are you still here? Because I'm short-sighted.
Well, I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Does it have an effect loop?
Yes. Yeah, it does have an effects loop. It's a series effects loop, okay, which is probably the most popular for most guys who want to run delays and reverbs and stuff like that. I usually use the effects loop religiously, but there's so many amps, I didn't want to keep switching the effects loops, and so I'm having to go in dry today without any delay, which is kind of a bit weird for me. I've got a little delay in the front end just to take off the loneliness of having no delay. So yeah, the speakers in this, by the way, are vintage 30s in this cabinet, and it's all UK made. Anything else? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next amp then, if that's okay. combo here is called the Origin 50.
Nah, ini dia pakai Marshall Origin 15. Dia ganti ampli lagi.
Got the 50 today because we're in a nice big room. What's great about these amplifiers, they give you that classic Marshall tone. But it's a thing on these called power stem, which is basically a three-way attenuator. And this amp's, in high power is 50 watts. In the middle position, you can drop it down to 10 watts. And in the low position, it goes down to sort of 2.5 watts. So it makes it really, really kind of flexible depending on your playing environment. Now, believe it or not, I'm in low power at the minute, so it's kind of 2.5 watts. We're going for the PA a little bit, so obviously that's why you're getting a huge sound. But for my age sound here, it's more than enough. But plus, with any vintage style amplifier, you want to be able to push the master volume so you can get that power amp section working quite hard. So I'll just show you the amp first this time. On the single coil position, and with the humbucker, so it's a really simple amplifier, this one. The speaker in this is a 12-inch Celestion, and the panel is really straightforward. You've got your master volume, you've got a gain, presence, bass, middle, treble. There's a push-pull on this amp, on the gain control, which basically gives you a boost on the front end, which I'm just going to show you the difference now. I always leave it on because I like gain. I'm just going to show you without the boost now. Jump in gain this one. A lot of people get confused thinking it's going to go clean to overdrive, and it doesn't, because I'm pushing the whole amplifier. It's always kind of driven, but for me the push-pull adds a little bit more gain, but it actually just adds a lot more bass, bottom end, a lot more body, which is generally kind of bigger sounding. It's got an effects loop which is foot switchable, and the push-pull, the gain boost is foot switchable too. So if you don't want the 50 watt combo, you can get a 50 watt head. You can also get a 20 watt combo or a 20 watt head. Difference is with that one, it's a smaller speaker in the combo. It's a 10-inch V-type Celestion. And the power scaling works a little different. It goes from 20 watts to 5 watts to around 1 watt, okay, in the lowest position. And then you can also get the 5 watt, which is the smallest. It's got an 8-inch Celestion speaker in that one. And it goes from 5 watt down to half of a watt. So if you've got horrible neighbours that moan about you playing guitar all the time, then that's probably a good position to use. So, any questions on the Origin? No? It must mean you're really shy, or I'm really good at my job. Yeah? Can you say that louder, because my boss is somewhere in the audience? Yeah, thank you. Someone shout pay rise as well, please. I'll do a track with the Origin 50. Okay?